The Ottoman Empire made several attempts to besiege Constantinople and bring an end to the Byzantine Empire on multiple occasions. However, these efforts were repeatedly disrupted by the Crusaders, internal conflicts, uprising, and incursions of Timur. Despite these challenges, by the mid-15th century, the Ottomans managed to solidify their control over the region, ushering in a period of relative internal stability. The looming prospect of another siege of Constantinople became evident. In 1444, Sultan Mehmed II achieved a decisive victory over European Crusaders at the Battle of Varna. The death of the King of Poland and Hungary, Vladislav, during this battle threw the most influential states in Central Europe into turmoil. Despite facing opposition from figures like the Albanian Lord Skanderbeg and Transylvania's Voivode John Hunyadi, the Ottomans pressed on. Hunyadi made appeals to the Pope and European monarchs for a new crusade, yet received little support. Skanderbeg, a former Ottoman vassal, successfully thwarted 3 punitive expeditions sent by Murad, inflicting significant losses on the Ottoman forces. Meanwhile, Murad dealt with internal rebellions and a campaign against the despotate of Moria in 1446, asserting his dominance over the region. The Sultan's attention then turned to Skanderbeg, resulting in a minor victory for Murad at the Battle of the Svikhrad in 1448. However, Skanderbeg's guerrilla tactics made it difficult for Murad to pursue him effectively. In the same year, Hunyadi prepared for another crusade, massing a sizable army by September. Although he hoped for support from Dorad Brankovic of Serbia, an Ottoman vassal, it was not forthcoming, and Serbian territories were instead targeted by raids. Murad, aware of Hunyadi's movements, mobilized his forces to prevent Skanderbeg and Hunyadi from joining forces. The exact sequence of events remained uncertain, but by October, Hunyadi found himself at the field of Kosovo, awaiting Skanderbeg. Some accounts suggest that Skanderbeg was hindered by Dorad or Ottoman garrisons, delaying his arrival. Nevertheless, on October 17th, the Sultan, with a force of 50,000 soldiers, arrived at the site of the historic First Battle of Kosovo. In the ensuing conflict, the combined forces of Hungary, Poland, Wallachia, and Moldova launched a frontal assault on the Ottoman lines, with their heavily armored troops on the first day, initially making gains before being pushed back. Hunyadi attempted to flank the Ottomans with his light cavalry during the night, but encountered resistance from Ottoman horsemen. On the second day, Murad employed a strategic withdrawal of his flank, deceiving Hunyadi, who launched a direct assault on the Ottoman center, despite briefly gaining ground against the Ottoman light infantry. The Crusaders were halted by the Janissaries near the Sultan position, leading a decisive Ottoman victory. At this point, the Ottoman flags returned to the battle and encircled Hunyadi's forces. The leader of the crusading army managed to retreat, but more than half of his troops were killed, while the Ottoman lost around 5,000 men. The Battle of Kosovo sealed the fate of the Balkan people for the next few centuries. Skanderbeg continued his resistance, and a few more campaigns against him did not bring any tangible success. But the forces of the Ottoman, the road to Constantinople was now open. When Murad II passed away and his son Mehmed II came to power in 1451, his singular goal was to take the Byzantine capital. Constantinople was not the city it once was. The total number of population was now between 50,000 and 100,000, and vast swaths of land within the walls were empty and even used for farming. The Byzantine Emperor Constantine XI now controlled only a small territory along the coast and had to pay tribute to the Ottoman Sultan. Mehmed signed treaties with Venice, Genoa, and Hungary to ensure that they were not going to attack him. A new rebellion by the Karamanids allowed him to cross into Anatolia and consolidate his power in the region. Constantine XI was hoping to end the practice of paying tribute to the Sultan, and threatened to support Mehmed's cousin Orhan in claiming the Ottoman throne. That gave Mehmed a reason to declare their previous treaty null and void. The Ottomans started preparing for war. In April of 1452, the Sultan gave orders to build a fortress called Romeli Hisari on the northern end of the Bosphorus to prevent any ships from assisting Constantinople from the Black Sea. The fort was built by the end of August, and Constantine had no other choice but to start bringing his subjects into the city, storing up supplies, and sending pleas for help to the European states. Only a contingent of Venetians, ships, and around 1,000 mercenary soldiers led by Giovanni Giustiniani arrived to help, while most Christian monarchs ignored the pleas. The Ottomans had more than 100,000 warriors, 69 cannons, and 126 ships under the overall command of Mehmed II against 7,000 professional Byzantine troops, among them 500 Ottomans of Prince Orhan and a dozen or so cannons and 26 ships. More than 30,000 locals were pressed into service. The Byzantine and Italian ships were better than their counterparts. While their guns were outdated, one of the Ottoman guns was particularly big and would play an iconic role in the upcoming siege. Each section of the wall would be commanded by one of the Italian commanders, with Giustiniani being the leader. While Constantine and his guard maintained their reserve position at the Blackernay Palace, efforts were underway to mend the walls, and the chain was secured across the Golden Horn to thwart potential naval assaults by the Ottomans. The advanced contingent of the Ottoman army reached the outskirts of Constantinople on April 1st, 1453, establishing camp the following day. Sultan Mehmed II arrived at the city on April 5th, initiating preparations for the impending siege. By April 6th, the formidable Ottoman cannons were positioned and commenced bombarding the Theodosian walls, albeit with limited impact due to their lengthy reload process. Despite relentless bombardment, the Byzantine managed to promptly repair the inflicted damage. On April 7, the Sultan ordered a frontal assault by his light infantry and skirmishers, only to be thwarted by the steadfast defenders, compounding the Ottoman setbacks. Their primary cannons were lost in a mishap, leaving them with smaller, less effective artillery. Several Byzantine sorties on April 8th and 9th yielded no significant gains. On April 11th, the Ottomans intensified their siege efforts, subjecting the city walls to continuous battering, despite repeated nocturnal assaults on the 7th and 18th. The defenders held firm. Meanwhile, the Ottomans' navy's attempt to breach the chain and access the Golden Horn were futile, while the arrival of the Venetian reinforcement ships on April 20th bolstered the defenders' ranks. Faced with these challenges, Sultan Mehmed II devised a novel strategy, famously ordering his ships to be transported over land near the Demise settlement of Pera. By April 28th, Ottoman vessels were maneuvered into the Golden Horn behind the chain, posing a new threat. Constantine responded by dispatching fire ships to counter his maneuver, yet the defenders suffered defeat in this encounter. Consequently, Constantine was compelled to allocate a portion of his troops to fortify the northern wall, thereby compromising defenses elsewhere. Despite efforts to deploy Byzantine cannons in the vicinity, they proved insufficient in safeguarding the Allied ships, which were forced to retreat to harbor. Their crew joined the defense. On May 6, Ottoman artillery succeeded in demolishing the gates of San Romanos, nearly breaching the defenses under the cover of darkness. However, Giustiniani made his arrival and successfully repaired the attacker. On the 11th, the Caligarian Gate sustained damage, prompting the Ottomans to advance toward the Blackernay Palace, but the emperor managed to repulse their efforts. A comprehensive assault was ordered by the Ottoman Sultan on the 29th. Following a heavy bombardment, a light infantry assault ensued. Yet despite this numerical superiority, they were unable to breach Giustiniani's defenses. Mehmed's artillery caused significant damage to the gates. Near the gate of St. Romanos, 3,000 Janissaries were dispatched to exploit this opening. Although the Byzantine once again mounted a staunch defense, the Janissaries managed to seize one of the towers and plant the Ottoman flag. At this critical juncture, Giustiniani sustained severe injuries and was evacuated from the battlements, dealing a significant blow to the defenders' morale. Subsequently, when several hundred Janissaries breached the city near the gates of St. Romanos, the Byzantine defenses collapsed. Both citizens and defenders sought refuge on ships to flee the city. Reports indicate that the emperor, accompanied by his remaining guards, launched a desperate counterattack near the gates of St. Romanos, resulting in his demise. Thus, the final Roman emperor perished alongside his empire. The fall of Constantinople symbolized the conclusion of the medieval era, catalyzed the onset of the Renaissance, and inaugurated the age of discovery and colonization, and instigated centuries of conflict between European powers and the Ottoman Empire.